So you can see with these bonuses, the only ones that are based on your main stat are the sustain passive. But sustain aside, there's no reason that a magicka-based build can't use medium armor or a stamina-based build light armor. This gets more interesting with the Ascending Tide DLC because with skills scaling off your highest stats, you can build towards a more balanced array of skills in your loadout, often making sustain for your main stat a little less difficult since the cost types are more evenly split. So another key thing with light and medium I think is pretty interesting as well that they each have a stat with a cap on it. Penetration tops out at 18,200 for enemies that you face in PvE, and crit damage has a hard cap of 125%. So each of these skill lines has a stat that is only beneficial to stack up to a certain amount. Then they also each have a stat that is essentially always useful. There are certain niche situations like running mechanical activity where your crit chance might become redundant, but for the vast majority of scenarios, you aren't ever hitting 100% crit chance, and therefore you don't have to really worry about having too much of it. And then with medium armored weapon and spell damage, there's no cap on that, so you don't ever have to worry about having too much of that either. In optimized scenarios, that weapon and spell damage is usually a bit stronger than the crit chance line, so the choice really comes down to those other bonuses. If you need the penetration, light armor is really hard to pass up and will generally perform better than medium. But if you are good on penetration, medium is generally going to be a little stronger, even on magicka builds, provided you can sustain it. And the same goes with light armor for stamina builds. If you do need that penetration, then you can sustain it. So to sum it up, if you are going mostly all into stamina skills or all into magicka skills, you'll probably need to stick with your armor weight that corresponds to the sustain for it. But if you're mixing the two up a bit more, you can probably get away with some setups that you might not have been able to in the past. And kind of tying in with the light versus medium armor, for the last part of this section, I wanted to break down those penetration and crit damage caps. We do get a lot of questions over these, so I thought it would be useful to include a guide within this, but if you already have these concepts down pretty well, you can probably just skip past this section. But I thought I'd include some of the more common sources of penetration and crit damage for those that need help building up to those caps. So let's start with penetration. Enemies in dungeons and trials have 18,200 armor, so we need to ideally get to that point through bonuses and debuffs. It is worth noting that overland enemies only have 9,100 armor, so you don't need nearly as much there. And solo arena mobs do vary in resistances, but I'll have a link in the description if you're interested in digging further into that. But generally 18,200 is that mark that you want to hit for group content. So I won't go through every debuff here, but I did want to go through some of the common ones that you'll usually see. Major Breach reduces the enemy's armor by 59.38. Minor Breach reduces it by 29.74. If you have a tank using Pierce Armor, these are both automatically applied to any enemy that is targeted with this attack. I won't list all of the skills and other sources that can provide these debuffs, but ESP has a great page for buffs and debuffs, so you can quickly see every source of them in the game. Another popular armor debuff is the Crusher enchantment. This will generally go on an infused two-handed weapon and give another 2108 reduction to the enemy's armor. This is only one target per proc, so something to keep in mind for scenarios with many enemies. There is also a set called Torex Pact that increases this value further, and it's actually present on the trial dummy, but you don't commonly see this set able to be squeezed into dungeon or trial composition.